So this morning, I want to talk about some more DNA studying and research that I have done, and mainly to tie the Amish to the Jews. And it's been a long road. It's been very difficult. Many people probably would not have traveled as far as I have gone, but I have found some rewarding results, and I want to share them with you today. But first, as a reminder, I wear the yellow star and the yellow clothing of shame in honor of my forefathers, the Jews, who suffered at the hands of the Christians, and may vengeance be returned on their heads in the last days. So, those of you who have listened to my previous videos concerning DNA, you know that I have used several different DNA websites, and I have found some to be extremely lacking, and then there's one that opened up a whole new avenue for me to explore. And so what I want to do is tell you which ones I do not find very helpful. The least helpful would be Heritage. That's one of the least helpful. 23andMe is also among the least helpful. Ancestry.com was not helpful to me, but it was very helpful to many of my former Amish relatives. Many of them. What I find odd about Ancestry.com is it showed none of them having Sephardic Jewish in them. It showed many of them having Ashkenazi Jew blood in them. Many of them. It was at least half of my cousins. Now, concerning the Ashkenazi Jews, it has been said that the Ashkenazi Jews came from 4 women. All of them came from 4 Jewish women. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to this. This is what is claimed. Ashkenazi Jews are the most numerous in the world, and because of their numbers was the most persecuted by the Europeans. What I have found is that I'm not saying these Jews, practicing Ashkenazi Jews are not Jews. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this. It was reported, it's documented that 60% of Ashkenazi Jews don't even show Ashkenazi Jew in their DNA, those who have done a DNA test. 60% don't show a trace. Now, I suppose if they were to go on Heritage, or if they were to go on 23andMe, I can see why they wouldn't show any, because they're not looking for any. And I would say that Ancestry.com is marginal at best. But FTDNA, folks, His, I believe the CEO is by the name of Greenspan, is a Jew. These guys are doing their homework. Don't waste your money on the others, folks. Now, as I said, the FTDNA has opened up a whole new avenue for me to explore. When you go on the FTDNA page, when I first saw it, I thought, I don't know how in the world I'm going to navigate this. Well, I managed to navigate it. As I said before, I've got my Y-DNA results completed. I've got my the 22 chromosome, the admixture completed, and they showed that I have. They estimate. You know how estimation goes. They estimate me being 5% Sephardi Jew, and they don't have any. They didn't show any estimate on Ashkenazi. But going down into the Y-DNA, traveling down that road, they have found that there are links to Ashkenazi Jews that go beyond from the 6th generation to the 24 generations, from 6 to 24 generations, somewhere in between there. The Y ancestry of my forefathers, the Y chromosome, ends up meeting with Ashkenazi Jews in Poland, in Belarus, in mostly in Poland. Okay? So, at some point in time, Ashkenazi Jews and my forefathers on the Y side share the same father. But that does not account for them saying, I'm 5% Sephardi Jew. So, I'm still waiting for the X side. I can't pronounce it. Is it mitochondrial? On my mother's side, which by now, any simple math will tell you that the 5% Sephardi would be on my mother's side. So, you know, waiting, and it hasn't been that long. The FTDNA is the fastest among them. And you can take, by the way, and I'll explain this. Well, I'll just go ahead and go. The information, the raw data that FTDNA or Ancestry.com or 23andMe.com, if you already use that, if you already use them, and you don't want to spend extra money, there's one more avenue you can take, and this is a very, very, very good one. GEDmatch.com. Okay? If you upload your raw data to, and they will show you how to do it, to GEDmatch.com, you can literally explore or go down like 100 different paths. But one particular path that I have found on GEDmatch.com, I'm going to log in and I'm going to explain it here. And this is free. Okay? And once, you have to wait until it's uploaded. Where on the right-hand side of the page where it says Analyze Your Data, you look down and scroll down to where it says Admixture and in parentheses, Heritage. Okay? Then it says admixture utilities, select the project. Well, if you're European, and the Amish are, okay, then what you do is you click Euro Genes. All right, let's do that. The way you process it, you just select the first one, admixture proportions with link to Oracle. And this is not that complicated. It looks complicated, but it's not. And then you'll have a kit number once you've uploaded your information, and or once you've registered, and uploaded your information, you'll have a kit number. So I'm entering my kit number in now, and then you see select the calculator model to use, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And which one do you select? You select J-test. J-test means Jew test. So you select that one, and you can enter your ethnicity if you want. You don't have to, but click continue. And it takes a few seconds to bring a report. Okay. So the J-test admixture proportions, this utility uses the Eurogenes J-test model created by, what is it, Polako Davidsky. So this fella is son of David. Questions and comments about this model should be directed to him at his Eurogenes Ancestry Project blog. Now, I have looked at his blog, and he was telling people, this is back in 2012, he was telling people, look, don't get too excited about his J-test. Don't make a big deal about it. He only, created it for fun and exploration, not to be taken seriously. Well, he has since changed, or he has since updated his J-test admixture or J-test test. And because a lot of people have been taking it very, very seriously, and he had not originally intended, but he has changed, modified his J-test utility tools. So here is what comes up. Population, in the population section, 10.61% South Baltic. Now, South Baltic is on the shores of Germany and Poland. That's the South Baltic. The shores of the Baltic Sea. Poland, that's where you find a lot of your Ashkenazi Jews, right? And once again, 8.46% East European. This is where the Ashkenazi Jews were on my FTDNA report, even though FTDNA did not say I'm so and so percent Ashkenazi Jew. Now, why is it that they won't show me being so and so percent Ashkenazi Jew? DNA websites, they only recognize somebody being Ashkenazi Jew if their ancestry shows up within 5 generations. If it's beyond 5 generations, they don't consider you, they don't calculate it that way anymore. Okay, hope that made sense. So the second one, North Central Europe. Well, North Central Europe is, you start with Germany and you move westward into Great Britain. That's North Central Europe. Atlantic, that would be 22%, or North Central Europe was 26.35%. Atlantic is 22.19%. And this is where it gets good, folks. Actually, two more down the line is where it gets good. So West Mediterranean, that would be more like Spain, Portugal. Then it says Ashkenazi. Yes, Ashkenazi shows up on this GEDmatch.com J-test admixture proportions. 3.35%. Now, don't forget what I have just told you. That only 40% of Ashkenazi Jews, practicing Ashkenazi Jews, have their DNA showing them have any remote Ashkenazi Jew DNA. Only 40%. That means 60% do not. I'm not saying that they're not Ashkenazi Jews. This is more, I'm pointing the finger at the DNA sites. They've got some work to do. And while every single one of the DNA websites that I have used, they don't show me having Ashkenazi Jew DNA. But FTDNA shows the roots go down further down the line between 6 and 24 generations. But GEDmatch.com J-test admixture proportions show 3.35%. Now the next one. This is where it gets very interesting. The next two, I should say. East Mediterranean, 10.27%. Now, go take a look at the Mediterranean Sea. Go ahead. Look at it. What is East Mediterranean? It's the Middle East. Then the last one, it says West Asian, 3.37%. All right, so you go take a look at West Asia, you will see it is an overlapping reference to the Middle East. Now it does have a Middle Eastern line on here, but the line is empty. But West Asian is essentially the Middle East. Now, and so is East Mediterranean. So that makes up like, 13.5%. Now, reports also show that those with either Ashkenazi Jew or Sephardi Jew, and also having East Mediterranean and West Asian in their background, is even more proof that the Ashkenazi or the Sephardi Jew is not a fluke. Now I went back and used like 10 more utilities. And what I have found was, with varying degrees, on the average, these utilities say that I am either 13% West Asian or Southwest Asian. West Asian and Southwest Asian is mainly the same thing. And all West Asian or Southwest Asian is the Middle East with Egypt removed from it, or North Africa removed. That's what it is. You can look it up on Google. So, the question comes up in Jewish circles. Is it lawful? Is it legal? Is it right to use DNA to prove one as a Jew? Well, back in up to 1950, once the Jews started leaving Europe, actually, it was from 1950 until 1970. That's for 20 years. For 20 years, all you had to do was call yourself a Jew, and you could come to the Holy Land. That's right. But in 1970, that changed. The government started setting up regulations and tried to set up Jewish law. That was not there before. Now they will say, oh, the thing about the mother's side of the family has always... No, it hasn't always been the case. This is something that the rabbis came up with. And why was this done? It was done to actually stop the flow of Jews into Israel. That is not right. It's not right at all. The rabbis, what they have done is they have made the religious part of the Jews to dictate who a Jew is and who a Jew is not. But if you look in the Bible, if you look in the prophets, you will find that being Jew is genetic. You cannot use the Bible to make a proselyte a Jew. The Jews are the children of Judah, one of the sons of Jacob, Levi, of the sons of Levi, or of the sons of Benjamin. Those are the Jews. In all truth. Truth be told, since Jew, the word Jew comes from Judah or Yehuda, only the sons of Yehuda are Jews. It is not right. It is incorrect for the rabbis to stand in the way, to block the door of the Messianic kingdom to people who are more Jew than those rabbis are. I know there was sarcasm in my tone here, but the truth must be told. The unvarnished truth must be told. So a few years ago, I believe it was back in 2013, the government of Israel was requiring Russian Jews, like they were trying to require everybody else, to show proof that they were Jews. Well, the Russian Jews, many of them couldn't show physical proof because the Soviet Union made sure they had a way of removing physical evidence because they didn't want anybody to be a Jew. They didn't want anybody to be any ethnic group. What they wanted was everyone to be a Soviet, a comrade. And so they snuffed out the ability to gather evidence of being a Jew in Russia. So then the government of Israel opened up the Pandora's box, the DNA Pandora's box, and then required these Russians to take a DNA test to prove their Jewishness. And only through lawyers and courts would they accept these DNA test results, and this particular DNA test that the Israeli government was requiring costed around $4,500. Well, as we know today, DNA tests do not cost $4,500, but they won't accept DNA tests from any other except one run by the Israeli government through their court system. And it doesn't matter how much Jewish DNA you have in your background, they won't accept you as a Jew unless you have a mother or a grandmother who is a Jew. Now, we all know that in the Bible, the children of Judah were Jews. That was not decided by the mother's side, the X side. It was decided by the Y side. So the Israeli government has it backwards. Backwards, folks. So there's a couple of scriptures that I want to go to. Now that I have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, using the DNA websites at my disposal, that I am literally, in fact, Jewish. Let's go to Ezekiel. Is it 34? Now I forgot. And I don't want to forget, it's something in the back of my mind that I wanted to talk about too. My point is, it is required. There is a requirement upon the Israeli government. So those of you of the Israeli government, if any of you are listening to this video, you are required, based upon Ezekiel 34, you are required to use every tool at your disposal to gather in to the Holy Land everyone with Israel DNA. You are required to do so. There are two scriptures, Ezekiel 34, and the other one I'm looking for, give me just a second to remember it. Not one seed shall be lost. I have to, because I'll forget this one sure enough. So I'm going to pop this one up here too, right in front of me. I will go to Amos 9 and verse 9 first. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all the goyim like corn is sifted into a sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall to the ground. So when the day of gathering comes, everyone, not even just the ones who can prove it by DNA, everyone that has a trace of Israeli blood in them will be gathered up. Everyone. It's just that simple. Based upon this statement, and since the prophet spoke of a new covenant for Israel, this gathering falls under the new covenant, as written in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. And to those rabbis out there who claim there is no new covenant, you're wrong. There shall be a new covenant. And Amos 9 and verse 9, the end of Amos 9 and verse 9, where it says, no pebble, no kernel will be lost, will be applicable to the new covenant. Now, Ezekiel 34, this is a message to the rabbis and to the government officials in Israel. And the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel, and say unto them, Thus saith Jehovah Elohim unto the shepherds, Woe be to the shepherds of Israel that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds instead feed the flocks? Yes, plural. Because there's more than one sheepfold. You eat the fat, and you clothe with the wool, and you kill them that are fed. Just like the Gentile leaders do, so have the leaders of Israel fed themselves on the backs of the people. But you don't feed the flock. Now, the reason why I'm quoting Ezekiel 34 is because there is a rabbi that used to be a member of Knesset, I believe it was in the Shah's party, who quoted this very scripture. He was the one who insinuated that the government of Israel is required to use all the tools at their disposal to bring all Israel in. I will continue. The diseased you have not strengthened, neither have you healed that which was sick, neither have you bound up that which was broken, neither have you brought back again that which was driven away. That's me. You have not brought back those who were driven away. There are many, many, many millions. There are so many millions that the state of Israel today could not contain the multitude that is scattered about on this earth. Israel would have to expand. But in order for Israel to expand, there would have to be a war to take land. And that's not politically expedient at this time, is it? It's not the politically correct thing to do, is it? Fear of being called apartheid state, fear of being called Nazis by those who persecuted the Jews. Why should the Jews be concerned about what their persecutors think? I will continue. Neither have you brought back that which was driven away, neither have you sought that which was lost. Lost. You mean those whose children were stolen by the Europeans and Christianized? Hmm? Yeah, you see, the problem is with government officials in Israel, they don't want those either. They don't want them. If they did, they would act. They would use the tools at their disposal. And one of those tools, one of those many tools, are these DNA testing programs. But with force and with cruelty have you ruled them. For example, the young man, the soldier, who killed the terrorist. The government of Israel wanted to make an example out of this young man and put him in jail for doing his job. That's how they rewarded him. Verse 5, and they were scattered because there is no shepherd. And they became meat for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. Yes, the beasts of the field. Who are the beasts of the field? Germany, Great Britain, France, Italy, Rome, Greece, Iran. Take your pick. They became meat for all those beasts because there was no shepherd. My sheep wandered through all the mountains, all the governments, all the cities, and upon every high hill, all the way around the world. You'll find them everywhere. There is not a place where you won't find them. My flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and nobody searched or sought after them. Nobody. Israeli government. The prophet Ezekiel is talking to you. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Jehovah. Verse 8, and when Jehovah swears by himself, you better listen. As I live, saith Jehovah Elohim, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, yes, to all the goyim, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search out their flock, but the shepherds fed themselves, and they didn't feed my flock. You rabbis better pay attention to this. You who stand in the way of the kingdom. Now, for many months, I have gone after the Christians for standing in the way of the kingdom. But I have to point a finger at you rabbis too. You did the same thing. Better listen. Because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search out my flock. But the shepherds fed themselves, and fed not my flock. Therefore, O you shepherds, hear the word of Jehovah. Thus saith Jehovah Elohim, behold, I am against you, shepherds. Now, if you read in Ezekiel 38, he says he's against Gog and Magog. It is not good to be the one who Jehovah Elohim is against. It is a very bad thing. It's a horrible thing. It is your worst nightmare for Jehovah Elohim to be against you. So the shepherds of Israel behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more. I will deliver my flock from their mouth. He's calling you rabbis wolves because you're eating the flock, that they may not be meat for them. For thus saith Jehovah Elohim, behold, I, even I, will do two things. Search my sheep and seek them out. Verse 12, as a shepherd seeks out his flock in the day, when he is among his sheep that are scattered. What day is that going to be? That's the day of Jehovah's wrath upon the nations, upon the Gentiles. So will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in that cloudy and dark day. Just go Google Plague of Darkness. That's all you'll need to see. That's when it happens. And I will bring them out from the Gentiles and gather them up from the countries, and will bring them into their own land and feed them upon the mountains of Israel, by the rivers, and in all the inhabited places of the country. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. They will lie down in a good fold and in a fat pasture, and they shall feed upon the mountains of Israel. Verse 15, I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith Jehovah Elohim. I will seek that which was lost. That's right. The religion of Judaism will have nothing to do with it. These are the seed of Israel. The seed of Israel's race will all be gathered. Not one single strand of DNA is going to be lost. Not one. Not one. You're not going to have to ask, well, how much percentage makes me a Jew or makes me of Ephraim? Just 1 or even 0.5%. Not one pebble, not one kernel will fall to the ground. Verse 16, I will seek that which was lost, and bring back again that which was driven away, and bind up that which was broken. I will seek that which was lost. Who are the lost? They don't even know. They don't even know they are Jews. That's who the lost are. They don't know that they are of Ephraim. That's who the lost are. They had no idea. And if the Amish mumble under their breath about their Jewish background, then how many more among the nations that don't even know at all, will find out by a miracle? Will strengthen that which was sick, but will destroy the fat and the strong. That's the fat and the strong among his people. And I will feed them with judgment. You see, here's where the problem is. The problem is the higher-ups among the Jews, they know who they are. They enrich themselves at the expense of the lower class Jews. This is how they get rich. He says he's going to destroy the fat and the strong and feed them with judgment. That is to all you higher ups. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are, and everybody else knows who you are too. Not just in Israel, but among the nations. Here in the United States especially. The fat and the strong. Wealthy. On the backs of other Jews. Verse 17, as for you, O my flock, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, I will also judge between cattle and cattle, between the rams and the he-goats. Seems it a small thing unto you that to have eaten up the good pasture, but you must tread down with your feet the rest of your pastures? And to have drunk of the deep waters, but must you file the residue with your feet? As for my flock, they eat what you have trodden down with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet. That's right. What the rich have done was made it so that the others could not excel. Of Israel. The others of Israel could not excel. They did it at the expense of the poor. And they did it so that the ones who tried to excel were not able to. Verse 20, therefore, thus says Jehovah Elohim unto them, behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and the lean cattle, because you have thrust with side and shoulder, and pushed all the disease with your horns, until you have scattered them abroad. Therefore I will save my flock, and they will no more be a prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle, and I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. Now, that is the royal line of David. He shall feed them, and he shall be my shepherd, and I, Jehovah, will be their Elohim, and my servant David, or the son of David, a prince among them. I, Jehovah, have spoken it. And the Protestants, of course the Catholics too, but the Protestants are dead set against this. They are dead set against this. With their always talking about false peace, covenant of false peace that's coming. It's an incredible. They are so opposite of the truth, it's amazing to me. Verse 25, and I will make with them a covenant of peace, and cause the evil beast to cease from the land. In other words, bulls of Bashan, out. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them and the places round about my hill, that's Zion, a blessing. And I will cause the shower to come down in its season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase. And they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that I am Jehovah. When I have broken the bands of their yoke, that means the Gentiles are going to have to let them go and bring them to the Holy Land or die. They have a choice. The Gentiles will have a choice. You either bring all Israel and their belongings to Israel, or you die. You cease as a nation. You get annihilated. That's going to be the choice that the Gentiles are going to have to make in the future. You don't bring the Jews, you don't bring Ephraim over, you cease to exist. Broken the bands of the yoke, and delivered them out of the hands of those who serve themselves of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely. None of them shall be afraid, and I will raise up for them a plant of renown. What plant is that? The tree of life. You'll find it in the book of Revelation if you want to go and look. Yes, the tree of life, that plant of renown. And they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land. Neither shall they bear the shame of the heathen anymore. Thus shall they know that I, Jehovah, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, even the whole house of Israel, are my people, saith Jehovah Elohim. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, saith Jehovah Elohim. And there you have it, folks. Government of Israel, rabbis, attention! You are required to use every tool at your disposal to gather in all Israel. Not just the Jews, all Israel. But of course you first start with the Jews according to Joel 3. I mean, my goodness, folks, do you realize if every solitary person on the earth took a DNA test, and that's not the only tool, that's just one of many. If they took a DNA test and everyone that has Jew in their DNA were told to go to Israel, do you know how many people that would be? And that's just the Jews. We're not even talking about the rest of Israel. That'll probably be the Jews alone, probably at least 50 million people. You're going to try to put 50 million people in a land the size of Israel right now? This is the paradox we're living in, folks. And Ezekiel 34 is going to require all Israel at the hands of the rabbis. But not just the rabbis, the heathen, the nations, the Gentiles, the Goyim. Leaders of Israel, do your job.